Hello and welcome to PETA's June Town Hall meeting. I'm Ben Williamson, PETA's Senior International Media Director, and I'll be co-hosting today's conversation. We'll be joined shortly by PETA President Ingrid Newkirk, Executive Vice President Tracy Reiman, and Director of Corporate Affairs Anne Brainard for a special town hall on the success of our work to stop the abuse of animals for their skins. PETA is pushing the envelope, changing how the entire fashion industry, as well as some industries you might not expect with associate with animal skin, think about the use of fur, angora, down, leather, and wool. We'll give you the latest on our groundbreaking campaign to shut down the cruel mohair industry and tell you more on how we're convincing what stands now at 190 brands, and we're getting more and more every day. 190 brands now have banned mohair. For those of you on the phone, at any time during this meeting, you can press 0 to ask a question. You'll be transferred to a PETA staffer who will record your question and put you back into the town hall so you can listen in until we take your questions live a little later in the meeting. If you have access to a computer, you can stream today's meeting by visiting peta.org/JuneTownHall. Once you're logged in, you can type in your questions and listen to the discussion without using your telephone. Make sure you get your questions in early, as we are expecting a flood of inquiries from members on the many recent victories we'll be discussing today. And while we may not get to everyone during today's meeting, we will follow up directly with those whom we miss soon after today's town hall. PETA is in the midst of our Save Our Skins Matching Gift Challenge, a great chance to give an immediate boost to the vital work that we'll describe today. At any time during this meeting, you can press 7 to make a special gift that will be matched dollar for dollar up to our $250,000 goal. If you're joining us online, you can go to peta.org/SOS and your gift will be matched there as well. For those just joining, welcome. I am Ben Williamson, PETA's Senior International Media Director. Ingrid, Tracy, and Anne will all be on the line shortly. Today, we'll be discussing some of the latest victories in our work to put a nail in the coffin of the fur trade. Also, what PETA has revealed about goats and the mohair industry, and some details on some of the innovative vegan materials that are making animal skins obsolete. I encourage you to stay with us until the very end of today's discussion, as Ingrid, Tracy, and Anne will be answering your questions live at the end of the meeting. So it looks like we've got most of our callers on the line now, so let's get started by introducing PETA President Ingrid Newkirk. Ingrid.
Thank you, Ben, and thanks to all of you for joining today's town hall meeting. I'm speaking to you from the Sam Simon Center, that's a mouthful, in Norfolk, Virginia, and there is a rescued cat called Bubbles who is perilously close to my keyboard, luckily fast asleep. Anyway, I want to say a special welcome to everyone who's been on the town halls with us before. Welcome back. But if this is your very first town hall, then just welcome. We hold these town halls to give our members the real inside scoop at new exposés and to go over landmark victories that your generosity and your compassion has made possible. So I'm trusting that you'll leave today's call inspired by how much we've accomplished together, because it's a joint effort. And there are a few better illustrations of that than the collapse of the fur industry. So let me start with fur, because that is where our clothing campaign did start. Back in 1980, a little bit of memory lane here, when PETA was founded, fur industry ads were trumpeting that fur was, quote, what becomes a legend most. The reason you don't see those ads anymore is because after decades of truly solid campaigning, today most consumers now agree with PETA's old ad, which featured that comedian Amy Sedaris. You may remember her. And she appeared in an ad for us saying fur is what becomes a loser most. And most young people will now not touch the stuff. Some of you probably remember how we got to this point. I certainly do. How PETA first woke people up. We had a trailblazing Fur is Dead campaign. And then a bit later, we had our now iconic rather go naked than wear fur ads, billboards, and protests. And those ads starred everyone from Kim Basinger to Penelope Cruz to Taraji P. Henson. And then just a few months ago, I hope you saw, we had a massive billboard up in New York with Gillian Anderson from the X-Files. She looked fantastic. And these ads, of course, including Gillian's, recently grabbed headlines for the idea that fur was not to be sought, it was to be scorned. And you may remember our demos. We did our demos from London to New York to Tokyo. Tracy, who's on the line, was in one of those in London. Along the way, PETA also made news that people couldn't miss by taking over Calvin Klein's New York office to protest his use of fur. And Tracy was arrested there, along with several others, making a huge splash. And the very next day, it was successful. We met with Calvin Klein. He was nervous, but he agreed to stop using fur, and he became the first of many major fashion designers that PETA has persuaded to go fur-free. It wasn't long after that a PETA investigation documented the genital and anal electrocution of chinchillas. And that it was a revelation to people, and it led to the first ever guilty plea by a fur rancher on cruelty to animals charges. And, to bring you up to date, 3 years ago, we also managed to close down a whole chinchilla breeding operation, and we rehomed all 420 of the chinchillas who we found caged there. So we've kept fur in the news with many exposés before and since, and you're going to hear a lot more about that. But meanwhile, I'll shove it back to you, Ben.
Thank you, Ingrid. Well, these and other actions and the landmark victories that, as Ingrid mentioned, you'll hear about today are only possible because of the generous support of you and other kind PETA members. Today's town hall is taking place during the last few days of our PETA's Save Our Skins Matching Gift Challenge, a special chance to double your impact on the vital work we are discussing on this call. So every gift made during today's meeting will be matched dollar for dollar up to our $250,000 goal. Please help meet that ambitious challenge before our Saturday, June 30 deadline by making a gift right now. To give, just press 7 on your telephone, and a PETA representative will assist you and put you back into the meeting. And if you're joining us online, you can give immediately by visiting PETA.org/SOS.
Thank you, Ben. And whether you're giving online or you're giving by phone, your gift is going to be matched, as we mentioned, meaning every single dollar that you donate will go twice as far to support this vitally important work we're talking about today. And it is vital. For years, the dinosaurs of the fashion industry deluded themselves. They thought that fur would never, ever, ever fall from favor. And you would see things like this written in the papers, but they were wrong. And what has happened in recent months, we have reached that tipping point that we have been working so hard to reach. So we have John Galliano, Donna Karan, Donatella Versace, Michael Kors, Jimmy Choo. These are all designers who PETA has been protesting for years, all stalwarts, really in favor of fur, vocal about keeping fur. They have all agreed to stop designing with fur. Donatella Versace did such a U-turn. She told one fashion magazine, "I don't want to kill animals to make fashion. It doesn't feel right." Well, that's wonderful. And just last month, we also reached another milestone because InStyle became the first major fashion magazine to ban fur from its pages. And as a result of the PETA campaigns, it's not just the designers and the publishers who are finally acquiescing. In March, PETA rallied supporters in front of San Francisco City Hall. We were encouraging the passage of a historic measure to ban all sales of fur. And the San Francisco Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to do that. And now we're pushing other cities to do the same. Just last week, Los Angeles announced it's introducing an ordinance to ban fur there too. So the train has left the station. I am sure you all know, everybody on this call, that most fur comes from fur factory farms, something we've got to tell everybody else in case anyone hasn't heard. These are places where foxes and minks and other animals go absolutely insane. And I mean that literally. They lose their minds. They are kept in these cramped, filthy cages. They're poisoned. They're electrocuted. They're even bludgeoned to death. How anyone can do that, I don't know, but they do. So when an entire country bans fur farming, as Norway just did in January, that's a huge victory. It's a lesson. And again, PETA had a hand in that win. Back in 2014, PETA UK had an expose that revealed rampant starvation and other truly horrific conditions on fur farms in Norway. And PETA UK supporters worked with the Norwegian activists, held Europe's largest ever anti-fur protest, and that inspired thousands of people to come out and march through the streets of Oslo and other Norwegian cities and say, no, we want an end to this hideous fur trade, and it happened. So Norway, which was once one of the world's largest producers of certainly fox fur, now joins Germany, Japan, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and others who are putting fur farms out of existence after years of determined campaigning by PETA and our international affiliates. So it's paying off. Everywhere you look, changes in fashion are happening, and they're happening quite quickly. Probably everybody saw Meghan Markle, who is now the Duchess of Sussex, won't wear fur on ethical grounds. And when she praised vegan leather in a popular women's magazine, the online searches for vegan leather trousers jumped by 67%. So that's the real Markle sparkle. The coat that was worn by Donald Glover in the Solo Star Wars movie that just came out last month is 100% faux. And that distinctive shearling-looking coat that Ryan Gosling wore in Blade Runner 2049 was actually laminated, painted cotton. It looked so realistic, but it was cotton. We sent the costume designer for that some vegan chocolates for showing how chic and how kind cruelty-free clothing is. And we're always working in Hollywood to keep this message strong. We have accomplished very, very much to save the skins, the feathers, and the fur of animals in recent months, just now, but going back. But first, I just want to thank some wonderful people who have been the very first to come through with your donations. I'm going to pick up their names in a second and let you know. All funds go to achieve victories such as the donations that we're getting in now tonight. They will go twice as far, give us twice as much power in our work to keep animals from becoming victims of the fashion industry, the skins industry. To donate, and please, please do, move us closer to that $25,000 goal before Saturday. Please simply press 7 on your phone right now, and if you're joining us online, just go to PETA.org/SOS. That's PETA.org/SOS, and we will match your gift there as well. So thank you for supporting this work, and back to you, Ben.
Thank you, Ingrid. And now we're being joined by someone who will be familiar to most of you who've participated in our town halls before. PETA Executive Vice President Tracy Reiman will give us the latest on PETA's campaigns targeting down and Canada goose. Tracy, doesn't look like we have Tracy on the line right now.
Oh, I was
hi,
confused.
Tracy.
I'm so sorry.
Take it away.
Thank you so much, Ben. As you can tell from all of the wonderful progress Ingrid just mentioned, PETA's campaigns have reached so many consumers that the sight of a full-length fur coat is pretty much a thing of the past on anyone short of Cruella de Vil. In a desperate bid to hang on to relevance, the fur industry has been pushing fur trim. So that's become a major focus for us, particularly when it comes to the brand Canada Goose's hideous fur and feather jackets. Canada Goose's fur, they claim, comes from coyotes who were caught in excruciatingly painful steel traps, and then they are shot, they're stomped on, or even bludgeoned to death, all for just a bit of trim that could easily be replaced with warm and durable faux fur. A PETA expose of one of Canada Goose's down suppliers revealed workers herding terrified geese into pens, causing them to trample and crush each other in panic. The birds are then grabbed by their delicate necks, sometimes even 4 at a time, and shoved into cramped crates for a long journey to the slaughterhouse. Yet Canada Goose still has the audacity to claim that its fur and down are, quote, ethically sourced and humane. I don't think so. You usually can't win by entreaties and letters alone. So we use some really in-your-face tactics in addition to our polite pushes. Earlier this year, we plastered Toronto, for instance, where the company's headquarters, with Canada douche posters designed to help the good people of the city steer clear of Canada Goose cruelty. We call it guerrilla anti-marketing. Thankfully, not all companies are as callously deceptive as Canada Goose. Outerwear company Kuhl agreed to remove all references to ethically sourced down from its website and product hang tags after learning from PETA that there is no such thing. You may remember our expose of so-called responsible down suppliers. We revealed that on goose farms across China, where 80% of the world's down feathers are produced, workers step on geese's delicate wings and necks, tightly bind their feet together, and rip out their feathers by the fistful as the birds shrink and bleed. We'll keep pushing Kuhl and other companies to ditch down altogether and embrace the many modern down alternatives on the market instead. Another company that seems to be listening is Patagonia. It wasn't long ago that PETA targeted Patagonia for making misleading humane claims about its down and wool suppliers. So it was a real breakthrough last fall when Patagonia released their innovative new Micro Puff hoodie, which is a completely down-free puffer jacket that uses Plumafil, synthetic insulation to keep wearers warm. Patagonia spent nearly a decade perfecting Plumafil and claims its new jacket has, quote, the best warmth for weight we've ever achieved, down or synthetic. We'll have a lot more on the exploding popularity of innovative animal-free materials like Plumafil when we bring Anne in a few minutes. But first, it sounds like we're seeing some terrific gifts from our members.
Thank you, Tracy, and I'm deeply grateful to everybody who has called in so far, including Judy Pitts from Pennsylvania. That's $25 double to $50. Diane from Phoenix, Arizona, $35 double to $70. Rebecca from Oregon, thank you so much. $100 will go a long way because it's now $200. And all of you, thank you so much. Please do help PETA achieve more victories like those we're discussing today, and you're going to hear many more of them. Mary from Harlington, Texas, $25 becomes $50. Lisa, I hope I'm saying that right, from North Carolina, $15 becomes $30. Emily from York, 50 becomes 100. I'm not going to say what they double because we all took math in school. Diane, $25 from San Diego. Thank you. Ellen Dello from New Jersey, $350. Boy, that makes a difference. Thank you. That's $700. I said I wouldn't say that, but I did. And Barbara from California, $50. Thank you. Jan from Redwood City, $40. Joan, Horn Lakes, $10. That'll become $20. Kathy from Casper, Florida, that's $100. Will become $200. Kelly, $40. you from Wisconsin, Carol, $100 from Los Bonos, California. We really need this money, and we need to make this match. So this is extremely wonderful. I adore you all. Please help us. Press 7 right now on your phone. If you're joining us online, you know it's PETA.org/SOS. PETA is the only animal organization actively, vigorously determined to shut down the entire vile global skins trade, not just the fur, which is bad enough. And we take this responsibility extremely seriously because millions and millions of animals, each a wonderful individual, are at this moment suffering for skin, for fur, for feathers, and for wool. So now we're working to stop yet another cruel skins industry, one that many people have never even thought about until we had a groundbreaking PETA Asia investigation. Tracy will tell you about it now. Back to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Ingrid. PETA Asia eyewitness visited 12 Angora goat farms in South Africa, which is the world's top mohair producer, and found rampant abuse at every single one. Workers were documented dragging goats whose soft hair is used to make sweaters, blankets, and balls of yarn by their horns and legs, throwing them across the floor, mutilating them, and even cutting their throats while fully conscious. Just like the sheep who are abused by the wool industry, goats are prey animals, which means that being pinned down during the shearing process, vulnerable and completely defenseless, is especially terrifying for them. Goat kids who were being shorn for the very first time were left screaming in pain and fear. And just as in the wool industry, workers in the mohair trade are paid by volume, not by the hour, so they're driven to work quickly and carelessly. Rough handling is standard operating procedure. PETA's expose shows shearers lifting goats off the floor by their tail, which likely breaks it at the spine. Fast and rough shearing also leaves goats cut up and bleeding from their face and ears. Workers cut broad swaths of skin off of some animals, crudely stitching up even gaping wounds right there on the filthy shearing floor without providing any pain relief whatsoever. Farmers said that some goats even have their teats cut right off. When this ordeal is finally over, workers throw the animals across the wooden floor or drag them around by their legs. And of course, the cruelty doesn't start or stop with shearing. To clean off the mohair before shearing, one farmer actually dumped goats into tanks of cleaning solution and shoved their heads underwater. And he admitted that the chemicals would poison them if they swallowed it. Thousands of goats also died before and after shearing, but to the mohair trade, this is just the cost of doing business. They're robbed of their natural insulation, and many goats die from exposure to the cold wind and rain before they're even 6 months old. One worker said that in just a single weekend, 40,000 goats died of exposure across South Africa. Another said that up to 80% of goats die after shearing on some farms. Goats sometimes died of injuries or of thirst after getting stuck in thorns while looking for food in farmers' fields. That didn't stop farmers from profiting from their suffering, though, as workers just sheared the rotting corpses. When goats have outlived their usefulness after being roughly shorn over and over again for 6 or 7 miserable years, they're often sold to dismal backyard slaughter operations where they will be hacked apart. PETA has asked law enforcement agencies to investigate and file charges for potential violations of South Africa's Animal Protection Act, and we hope to have news on that front soon. And thankfully, this investigation is already having a tremendous impact, as we'll discuss in a moment. But first, Ben?
Thank you, Tracy. I just wanted to give a quick reminder that if you have a question about mohair or any of the other topics we're discussing today, please hit 0 at any time to ask Tracy, Ingrid, and Anne, because they'll be answering your questions live at the end of the call. Back to you, Tracy.
Thanks, Ben. Even before news of this latest investigation broke, PETA shared details with many fashion giants who all quickly agreed to ban mohair. Anthropology moved to drop it just 1 day after we released the expose footage and bombarded them with emails. And Forever 21 followed suit as well after receiving over 70,000 emails from supporters. And now we're calling on Levi's to do the same. The mohair industry's days are numbered, and they know it. After PETA's expose broke, a radio station in South Africa warned that the country's mohair industry, quote, faces extinction. A popular website in South Africa concluded its article about our investigation with a single powerful line, quote, justice for goats. PETA is persuading companies to pull mohair from their lines almost as quickly as they did with Angora rabbit items. You may recall the PETA expose revealing the suffering of rabbits condemned to massive farms in China.
Yeah,
we won't stop until we have had the same kind of success with mohair.
You broke up there, Tracy, but I hope everybody heard you. Before we bring Anne on the line, I want to just say a big thanks to Cheryl of Sedona, Arizona, $35. Thank you so much, Cheryl. You know that becomes $70. Sharon of Kokomo, $100. Bless your heart. Susanna, $250 from Troy, New York. That will be $500 that goes straight into the Save Our Skins campaign and helps us get close to that match. We cannot lose any of that match. It would be awful. Every penny goes to the animals. $50 from Kalila and Flemister, New York. Thank you all so much. Again, every gift you make during today's town hall is going to be matched. So please press 7 on your phone right now to give the work we're discussing that boost it needs to help all these animals. If you're joining us online, you can make a gift, PETA.org/SOS. Any amount that you can spare will make a difference for animals. So thank you, and back to you, Tracy.
I hope you can hear me okay now.
Yes.
Please, everyone. Good. Please, everyone, take advantage today of the Save Our Skins Challenge so that your generous gift will go twice as far to help animals. Even folks who aren't PETA members are familiar with our hard-hitting investigations, colorful protests, and, of course, the naked ads. But it takes more than videos and eye-popping PSAs to convince companies to change their ways. For every company that we're targeting publicly, there may be a dozen or more that we're working with behind the scenes, and that's where PETA's Corporate Affairs Department and its director, Anne Brainard, come in. A model of persuasive diplomacy, Anne is helping PETA transform the fashion industry, one CEO at a time. Anne's here now to tell us how. Anne?
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you to everyone who is on this call today. As Ingrid mentioned earlier, PETA is the only organization with major campaigns against the use of Angora, exotic skins, wool, down, and mohair. And on every front, we're breaking new ground, and we're winning. Before we ever publicly target companies, we always attempt to work cooperatively with them, a tactic that is resulting in new victories almost every week. We've had success with everyone from Ann Taylor in anthropology to Zappos and Zara. For the corporations and PETA, meeting behind the scenes with executives to improve corporate animal welfare policies is often both faster and far less expensive than launching a high-profile campaign. Heads of corporations watch the news, read business journals, and follow social media, so they know that demand for animal-friendly vegan products is growing every day. Most execs also understand that in this social media-driven age, when any consumer can watch videos on their phone of animals being abused in the skins trade, it's impossible for companies and designers using these animal-derived materials to get away with, quote, humane washing. Growing numbers of people, especially millennials, want to use their money to support ethical companies, and working with PETA is often a direct path to making that happen. Here's one example. In September of 2016, after meeting with a PETA France representative and after receiving tens of thousands of emails and phone calls and social media messages from PETA supporters, French clothing company The Couples agreed to ban fur. And that alone would have been reason to celebrate. But The Couples didn't stop there. Just in time for Valentine's Day this year, The Couples teamed up with PETA to launch an exclusive vegan leather clutch, which, by the way, quickly sold out, with all proceeds benefiting our vital work. In less than 2 years, the company went from selling fur to supporting our work to getting others to drop it. I love working with corporate executives who just get it. It's common to think of corporations as giving the highest priority to producing goods at the cheapest cost. And sadly, it is often the animals who pay that ultimate price. But I've had the privilege of working with an ever-growing number of corporate executives who understand that they have an ethical obligation as well as financial incentives to consider the repercussions of their business practices. Another company that gets it is luxury brand Von Holzhausen. When they first launched, the company created handbags using Italian leather, and it's Technic leather, which is a sustainable vegan leather that is made nearly entirely from recycled materials. Today, though, their production line is 100% vegan. And to mark this compassionate and business-savvy decision, PETA joined forces with Von Holzhausen earlier this year to give away a beautiful vegan leather bag. Of course, if our behind-the-scenes efforts don't work, you can bet we'll get creative. One of our most successful tactics has been buying stock so that we can participate at their annual shareholder meetings. And this really helps us get a foot in the door because companies hate it when PETA speaks up at their yearly pep rallies. Even the mere threat of PETA attending these meetings has really opened the door that were previously shut very tightly. And we'll also launch a very public campaign encouraging our millions of members and supporters to make their voices heard. Whenever we do, they flood the companies with emails and social media messages. And we then often get frantic calls from CEOs asking us to make them stop. So your voice has a huge impact. Ben?
Thank you, Anne. Another way to help is to press 7 on your phone right now or visit PETA.org/SOS and make a generous gift. However you choose to give, your donation will be matched today. And I just took a peek, and it looks like we've got some great questions coming in on everything from the mohair investigation that we've been discussing to vegan leather. So if you'd like to ask your question during today's town hall, you have to just press 0 at any time, and a PETA representative will jot down your question and put you back into the queue to ask it live a little later. Back to you, Anne.
Thanks, Ben. As Tracy mentioned just a few minutes ago, compassionate companies are acting swiftly to cut ties with the egregiously cruel mohair industry in the wake of that PETA Asia investigation that Tracy just described. So far, 190 major brands worldwide have banned mohair in response to that expose, and the list reads like a who's who of the fashion industry. Every day, it's looking more and more that mohair will soon be going the way of Angora wool. For those listening who aren't familiar with those cases, no one was even talking about Angora until a PETA Asia investigation showed rabbits on farms in China tied down, stretched across boards, and screaming as their fur is ripped out. Almost as soon as that expose went viral, stunned retailers quickly agreed to meet with PETA. And most agreed to drop Angora from their lines not long after. And today I'm happy to announce more than 330 retailers around the world have banned Angora wool. This list includes Ann Taylor, Calvin Klein, Eddie Bauer, Forever 21, Gap Inc., H&M, Land's End, Puma, Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, QVC, even Gucci more recently, and many others, and this list continues to grow. Since the 2013 release of our expose, Chinese exports of Angora have plummeted. Just 1 year after we released the footage, exports were down 85%. Those numbers are now so low that trade information databases have stopped even bothering to track Angora due to that lack of demand. PETA's anti-Angora campaign has effectively wiped out that cool Angora industry. Tracy?
Thanks, Anne. I wanted to share a quick story that goes miles towards explaining why we're so confident that mohair is the next cruel industry we're shutting down. Back in February last year, Anne told me that she'd been shopping at H&M, and nearly every single sweater she picked up had mohair in it. H&M was even heavily marketing it with round hang tags on the garments that said mohair blend. That prompted us, actually, to send the eyewitness to South Africa to investigate. Fast forward to late April of this year, we knew that the media was just days away from breaking the story on our investigation. We'd already contacted Gap, Arcadia Group, and Inditex, which owns Zara and is the largest retailer in the world, and they had all agreed to ban mohair. That's when Anne reached out to H&M and said we'd love for them to get on board too, so that they'd be ahead of the story and not put on the defensive when the expose broke. Well, the title of the Washington Post article tells you what happened next, and I quote, H&M, Zara, and others ban mohair products after animal cruelty investigation.
Thanks, Tracy. That's quite a turnaround from just a year ago. Another area where we're seeing exciting progress is in our work to replace animal skins with innovative new vegan options. Today, designers can choose from pineapple leaf leather, soy-based vegetable cashmere, fleece made from recycled plastic bottles, wool made from seaweed and hemp, and many other fashion-forward materials that don't harm animals. PETA friend Stella Mccartney, a sustainable fashion pioneer, as many of you know, is leading the way. She's teamed up with biotechnology firm Bolt Threads to develop the next generation of luxury vegan materials. Their first piece was a dress fashioned entirely from lab-made vegan silk that was displayed at New York's Museum of Modern Art. To help incentivize innovation in this area, the 2018 Bio-Design Challenge included the first ever PETA Prize for animal-free wool, offered in partnership with PETA, an investment firm called Stray Dog Capital, and Stella Mccartney, to encourage fashion and design students to develop a sustainable vegan biomaterial that could replace wool. You've heard of lab-grown meat, but what about lab-grown leather? It's real and it's coming. PETA took a look at this revolutionary new material from Modern Meadow, which is a biofabrication company that grows liquid collagen from yeast cells through a DNA process of editing and finishing with an eco-friendly tanning process. I know that some automakers in particular are really eager to make that switch over to vegan leather. In an interview just last summer, the Land Rover design director, Jerry McGovern, said, quote, I'd be quite happy to move away from leather tomorrow. I don't like that we have to slaughter all those cows to create leather. Even ultra-luxury car maker Bentley is reportedly looking into mushroom-derived leather for its interiors. And Bentley's design director says people want cars that align with their beliefs, and it's creating vegan leather interiors to cater to that demand. Ferrari and even Mercedes-Benz already offer entirely vegan options for their vehicles, and Ferrari's vegan leather is even being marketed as an upgrade and costs more than cow leather. And the company even admitted to customers who choose the vegan options that in many ways it's superior to cow leather. And after PETA spoke up for animals at a Tesla annual shareholder meeting a couple of years ago, Tesla completely eliminated leather seats from all its models. And then just last month, we attended another Tesla shareholder meeting and asked Elon Musk to replace the leather that's currently on the steering wheel with a vegan leather. And he agreed to look into it and noted that their next vehicle, the Model Y, will be completely vegan. In fact, so many clothing, auto, and furniture companies are embracing high-quality vegan leather that PETA has written to HarperCollins and Merriam-Webster and other top dictionary publishers, urging them to keep up with the times and expand the definition of leather to include plant-derived and synthetic materials. And Encyclopedia Britannica has already done so. We've also teamed up with the influential Parsons School of Design, which is America's top design school, on a series of panel discussions about sustainable vegan fashion. And another way we're promoting vegan fashion is through our PETA-approved vegan logo. and we created this logo, which those of you online should be seeing right now, as a simple way for clothing and accessory companies to showcase their cruelty-free items. This time last year, more than 225 businesses had signed our statement of assurance in order to use the logo on their vegan products. Today, that number has skyrocketed to more than 700, and more are lining up to join every week. Ben?
Those are wonderful updates. Thank you so much, Anne. Before Ingrid comes back with a final word or two and we get to your questions, a brief reminder now that everything we've discussed today happens thanks to the direct support of yourselves, caring PETA donors like you. So if you haven't given already, please right now press 7 on your phone. As we've been discussing, the town hall is taking place during the last few days of the Save Our Skins Matching Gift Challenge, so it's a very special chance to double your impact on the vital work that we're discussing on this call. So you only have a few days left before June 30th to double your donation, so now's the time. Back to you, Ingrid.
Thank you, Ben. And I want to thank Sunil of Texas, Doris from North Carolina, Margaret from British Columbia, Marilyn from Vancouver. Each of you gave $50, which becomes $100, which is terrific. And Deborah, $250 from you. That will go an incredibly long way. Sarah from Dallas, $100. Thank you. You know how that doubles all of that. Lynn, $25, Rockingham, North Carolina. And Anne, the same, from Lone Park, Kansas. Thank you so much. Kelly from Wisconsin, $40 becomes $80. Barbara from Bridgewater, $75 becomes $150. Susan, bless your heart, from San Jose, $5 becomes $10, and we will put it to good use. For those of you who are keeping track of the cat who is asleep on my desk, she has now got up and she is moving around with her stuffed hedgehog. But I was just thinking about her. How can you miss her? In China, she would be used for fur. And you know that we have done dog leather investigations there. We have seen what happens with dogs and cats coming in for those little fur bits into this country. And we are determined it will all stop. So as you can tell from tonight, momentum is clearly on our side as we work to ultimately end the abuse of animals for their fur, their wool, their feathers, their skin, the whole shebang. We are in the midst, I believe firmly, of a revolution in the way the world thinks about animals and about animal rights, and we have to push hard. When discussing her decision to drop fur, Donatella Versace, back to her again, said, "We are witnessing an unprecedented shift in the way consumers think, starting with the consumer becoming more conscious and aware of what they're buying." That's Donatella Versace, someone who has designed fur from the very, very beginning. So if she says it, we know that awareness is spreading, not just in our world, but in the world that she sees every day. It's spreading because of PETA, and I say that shamelessly because I see it every day, and I know it's true. I know how hard people work. It's because of our groundbreaking exposés that are waking people up to the horrors that animals endure in the skins trade. It's because of our impossible-to-ignore protests and those glorious celebrity ads that turn heads. It's because of our savvy use of Facebook, of Twitter, and all these other social media platforms, which sometimes enables PETA to win a campaign in just a matter of hours. And it's all because of you. Because you provide the fuel that allows us to make so much progress for these foxes and goats and rabbits and cows and geese, even for the ostriches and the crocodiles and all the other animals who are victims of this hideous skins trade. So to each and every one of you, thank you for giving tonight. Thank you for making all of this life-saving work possible. We are in your debt. Ben.
Thank you, Ingrid. Well, I think it's time to get to some questions because we've got many callers and online viewers waiting in the queue. So someone who's been waiting patiently is Sarah in Dallas. Sarah, what's your question to Ingrid, Tracy, and Anne, please?
Hi, I just wanted to know, does PETA post anywhere a list of non-leather companies for people to look up where they can buy shoes and belts and that kind of thing?
Sure, that's an excellent question. So as I mentioned, we have the PETA-approved vegan logo, which is a way for companies to highlight their vegan offerings. And we have a web page dedicated to companies that have signed on to use that logo. So that's a great first place to start. I'd also recommend going to your favorite brands and typing into their search bar vegan, because as I mentioned earlier, companies want to capitalize on the growing demand for vegan goods and are marketing their items as vegan. And as far as vegan-only brands, just a couple to throw out there are Matt & Nat, which is an exclusively vegan leather handbag company. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, the Von Holzhausen brand. So good luck in your search. I don't think you'll find it very difficult.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Sarah, for your question. We have another live caller now, Sean in San Marino, with a question about those old furs. Sean, what's your question, please?
Yeah, hello, everyone. Fascinating call, so informative, and I thank you all. I had two questions, actually. One is my mother passed away, and she, when I, was given some of her personal effects, she had some furs there, which I do remember as a child, her wearing furs when they were so popular in the 70s and the 80s. And, of course, I feel horrified or very sad to have these furs in my possession. And I'm not sure what the best way to discard them or to destroy them. I certainly am not going to sell them. So any advice on that? And the second question is there any, I've always preferred wool that is safe to buy and doesn't come at the cost of animal suffering?
Let me just answer the first bit. Absolutely, you can honor your mother and do something really good with the fur that she has left behind. And that is, you can donate it to PETA. You'll get a tax deduction. You may or may not care about that part. But we will use it. We take fur to schools, and we show the pictures of the beautiful animals in their natural environment. And then we show how many of them go into this garment and how that used to be something that people wore without thinking. And over time, people have turned their back on fur. We also use fur in demonstrations. We drag it through the street to a graveyard or to a natural history museum. We bury it. We also have orphanages for wildlife that sometimes are very grateful to get fur that they can use as bedding for these little animals who come in with no mother. And the other thing we do is that we send shipments of fur in winter to refugees in cold countries. They're cut up for children's coats because the refugees can't go to a store and buy anything anyway, and the animals can't come back. And it draws attention to the fact that the only people who can wear so-called vintage fur, which I hate that word, that term, are people who have no options in life, and it's just something that's there, that's been given to us. So we have a lot of uses we can put to it. And the second part about wool, I think you said, and there was a glitch on the phone, was there any sort of humane wool? And I would say the answer is no, unless you have a rescued sheep you've taken in and you gently shear him or her, and then you spin the wool. Anything commercial comes from these awful farms. They're on every continent, and we have been to every continent except Antarctica, and we have documented extraordinary abuse in the shearing sheds with, just briefly, animals being hit in the face with metal clippers, being stood upon, being cut to shreds and then stitched up without painkillers, and so on and so on. So no, there isn't anything you can do. I would get an alternative. There are wonderful alternatives to wool that are lighter weight, that don't bog you down when you get wet, and so on. So thank you for your call.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to remind everybody before we take the next call that now is the time to press 7 to make a gift. You can press 7. You can listen in afterwards, or go to PETA.org/SOS. Now's the time. We've only a few days left before the end of the matching gift challenge. So if you were thinking, if you're on the fence about it and you want to make a gift, now is really the time, because it will go far right now.
Ben,
sorry,
may I just
Ingrid.
interrupt you for just a sec, because
Please.
I really would like to say I missed Barbara from Bridgewater. You have been with us for a long time, and I just recognized your name. Thank you so much. But I also want to thank Michael from Bridgewater, Mary from Los Angeles, Lauren from Baltimore, Anne from Portland. You're all angels. All of you gave us $50, which becomes instantly $100. Noel from Maryland, that's my father's name, Noel, gave us $100, becomes $200. Judith gave us $10. Thank you so much. From Overland Park, Kansas, that becomes $20, which we will put to good use. And just let me say, PJ Schuster, thank you for the $100 donation. We are also grateful to you for looking after animals.
Thank you, Ingrid, and thank you, everybody, for donations. It really means the world to us and to the animals whom it helps. We had a written question next from Carl in New York, who says, Anne mentioned high-end automakers like Tesla and Ferrari are dropping leather. Are you having the same luck with car companies like Ford and Toyota? Anne, maybe you can answer that one, please.
Sure, Ben. Yes, we are seeing great progress with even mainstream car makers as well. Most non-luxury car makers also often vegan cars. From the seats to the gear shifter to the steering wheel, there are dozens of these mainstream car makers that offer models that can be fully vegan, and that includes companies like Buick and Chevrolet and Chrysler, GMC, Honda, Kia, Nissan, Subaru, Toyota, Volkswagen. Nearly every car maker offers vegan seating as an option. And trust me, we will continue to put pressure on all of these car makers until vegan leather is the only option.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Carl, for your question. We had another web question from Jennifer in Seattle, who asks, I know there were a few models who did some of the early naked ads, like Naomi Campbell, who later recanted and wore fur. Does this still happen? Tracy, maybe you can take this one.
Sure. Well, Naomi is in a nasty league of her own, really. But let me tell you instead about a revelation made a couple of weeks ago by supermodel Giselle, who we targeted back in 2002 after she did a Black Glamma fur ad. Black Glamma was this big furrier who was using celebrities in their ads back then. Well, she was a Victoria's Secret model, and during the televised Victoria's Secret runway show, PETA activists took over the runway as she strutted down the runway with Giselle fur scum posters. It was quite shocking to her and to everyone at the time. Well, she told Vogue magazine recently that after that, she said, quote, suddenly it dawned on me. It wasn't until that shock, it stopped me in my tracks. They sent me all these videos. I wasn't aware of what was happening, and I was devastated. So I said, listen, I'm not doing fur campaigns. It put me in the driver's seat finally. The universe comes to you and says, hello, maybe you should notice this. You need to be responsible for the choices you make, end quote. It was wonderful to see this in the notoriously furry Vogue magazine, but it also sent a message to other young models that they too should be responsible, not just to do as you're told, but to take a stand. And it was also a great endorsement of our often in-your-face tactics and their impact and long-lasting effect.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you, Jennifer, for your great question there. We have a live caller now. We have Olga Tyrova. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but Olga in Altamonte Springs, Florida. What's your question, please?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for this conference. My question is, if you could give me some suggestions or tips on how to present this issue to people who are still viewing it as normal.
Olga, Olga, do you mean people in person, or do you mean seeing someone in a fur? I suspect you don't, being in Florida. Or do you mean just people you know?
Yes, just people that I talk to, that I know, and just to somehow educate them and let them, open their eyes that this is not normal.
If you have a relationship with them such that you could ask them politely, would you please watch this video with me? We have terrific, you couldn't watch them and come away feeling that fur was all right. We have these videos that are quite short. They're all over PETA.org. And I would try to, and you could even put one on your social media signature or post one on your social media. But we also have pamphlets that are very compelling, and you could give one to somebody. Wherever I go, I carry pamphlets on just about everything. So if anybody brings anything up, I can say, oh, read this. But we've got ones on skins, all kinds, not just fur. But you could direct them to the website, direct them to a video, have them watch a video with you, give them a pamphlet, or just say, here's why I don't wear fur, and then tell them from your heart what you've seen and what you think. And if they're friends, I think they'll change.
Thank you so much, Olga, for your question. And PETA's website has videos on everything from fur to vegan foods to, all those videos are incredibly impactful. Ingrid's right. They are the best way to get people to really take notice, and you've got to have an unfeeling heart to not do something about it when you see them. I just wanted to say there's only a few minutes left before the end of the call, so now is the time to make a donation if you haven't done so yet. We've only got a few more days of the matching gift challenge, and now is the perfect time to get your money matched dollar for dollar to double your impact. Thank you so much. You can press 7 on your phone, and you can go to PETA.org/SOS to donate there as well. So we have another online question now from Isaac in Texas, who asks, is PETA doing anything about the dog meat festival happening in China this week? Ingrid, maybe you have some thoughts on this for Isaac.
I do indeed. We have a very strategical position on this because we are not happy, I'm sorry to say, with some of the things that are being done, which a lot of people are buying dogs to save them from Dog Meat Festival. And what inevitably happens, as you can imagine, is the price goes up. The dog meat sellers get more money, but also they bring more dogs the next year. They know that the humane people will be there to buy them. And there have been some absolutely appalling things that have happened after numbers of dogs have been bought from the Dog Meat Festival by well-intentioned people and have been sent to places that are basically overcrowded hoarders where they have fought and died in bad ways there. So we try to work at the roots always. I think you've probably seen it's not just meat. It's we've done an awful, and it's awfully hard to watch, a dog leather investigation. Yes, the carcasses are used from meat. They go in soup, but it's really they're being killed for their leather, which goes on into belts and jacket trim and even cat toys that are exported all over the world, including to right here in America. So what we're saying to people is please be aware. And of course, it's not just dogs. I've been in a dog slaughterhouse in Taiwan. It was beyond horrific, as you can imagine. But I've also been in one for horses and one for chickens and one for cows, and they are also horrific. So we've just got to get people at the root to start thinking differently about animals, who they are, not what they are and what purpose they serve. And we've got to get more people to just shy away from eating any animals and wearing any animal skins. We're not survivalists. The thing with China, too, is that the Chinese government, and we do a lot of work in China, the Chinese government does not take kindly to foreign interference. And we've seen that with the tariff wars. But they they don't like outsiders telling them what to do. So I think it's far more intelligent to work internally. And one of the things that we're doing is talking to youth in China. The next generations are not going to have the same attitude. Those who are growing up in cities, at least, are not going to have the same attitude toward animals as their fathers and grandfathers do. And that's our emphasis, is to stop this at its core. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Isaac. Ingrid, I'm afraid that's all the questions that we have for now, so back to you.
Well, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who's given tonight. Corey, $25 New York. Denise, $10 The Villages, Florida. That will all be doubled. Curtis, $50 from California. John from Omaha, $500. That is just fantastic. We've got to make this match by Saturday, so thank you, and thank you for the great questions. If we didn't have time to get to yours, as Ben mentioned, we will definitely get back to you in the next few days, so hang in there. I encourage you, please, stay on the line now. Leave a message for the campaigners, if you like, or for our investigators who have a terribly hard job. Leave a message for the determined PETA staffers who, like Anne, have helped us accomplish so much for animals in the past year. Thousands and thousands of animals have been helped. We will record your messages and we will share them. If you have a question that you just didn't get a chance to ask during the call, please do so now. So thank you so much for your compassion and for your support. It means the world. We really, really can't do this without you.
This concludes today's meeting. Thank you again for joining us, and have a very good evening.